Hey legends, welcome along to a new episode of Hellmouth Hotline. I am your host, the most inconsistent podcaster in the history of the platform, Rodney Stewart, and we're getting into another little chat about Buffy the Vampire Slayer. We are going through the episodes on a weekly basis here. Well, supposed to be on a weekly basis. We're actually into season 3 right now, episode 11, an episode called Gingerbread. Now, this one here, the big thing that I took from this episode is to never, ever make assumptions in anything. Check it out and watch it, and you'll either like it or absolutely detest it. Now, this one here, I was convinced going into it, this is going to be a terrible episode, and it actually wasn't. By the end of this here, I genuinely loved this episode. So good. Maybe not the quickest episode or the most action-packed episode you'll get in the run of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but fantastic nonetheless. This one here, Buffy's on patrol at the beginning of the episode. Spoilers before we go any further. These podcast episodes tend to be very spoilerific, so if you are, and it's going to be hard to find someone at this point in history that hasn't seen Buffy or knows anything about it, but if you haven't actually sat down and watched the series yourself and know the material, like, you're going to be, you're going to have most of the information by the end of this episode for the episode we're talking about. But it is what it is, so if you don't want to know any more about it, disappear off now, go check out the series yourself, and by all means come back and hang out with me afterwards. This is a horror appreciation channel after all, and you might say Buffy's not much horror, but it is. It's based on the classic horrors, but covering old ground right here. Let's get into it. I'm not going to edit that out because I don't have time. This episode has got a lot of Joyce Summers in this one. At the beginning of the episode, she is still trying to come to terms with Buffy being the Slayer, and she decides that she should go out and join her while she's patrolling, and she brings her a snack and everything, doing the whole mother deal. Buffy gets attacked by a vampire, of course, and Joyce is more of a distraction than anything else, but Buffy chases after the vampire, eventually kills it, but while she's gone, Joyce discovers 2 dead bodies, and they're very, very young children, and she freaks out. Buffy's freaked out. The kids have this symbol painted onto their hand, and at school the next day, Buffy shows Giles the symbol. The police come, cordon off the area, question Buffy and her mother and whatnot, and Buffy remembers the symbol that was on the hand of the dead children, and she says that the police is trying to cover this up, but I can remember it. She writes it down or draws it for him, and he tells her that demons don't use symbols, and that it is no doubt occult related. This angers Buffy beyond belief. She's like, what? Are you trying to tell me that someone with an actual soul did this? And she's like, if you're looking for your books for how to find whoever it is doing this, find a loophole where Slayers aren't allowed to kill humans. So she is, beyond angry at this point. At lunch, later on in the day, Buffy tells the Scooby Gang about the 2 kids that was murdered, and her mother actually shows up in the school and announces that there will be a vigil held at City Hall that night. Many of the concerned parents attend the vigil. Now Buffy, she's like, she says to her mother, well, whenever we're trying to deal with this sort of thing, we like to keep the amount of people that know about it to a minimum. So Joyce is like, maybe there won't be a lot of people show up, but the place is packed with parents that night. The mayor shows up to give support to the loss of these kids, although he's obviously just saving face, because we all know who he is and what he's up to in this series. Willow's mother turns up, There was a thing I pretty sure that I said at one point and earlier on in these reviews of Buffy, was the fact that you never actually see Willow's mother. Now, I may have forgotten any prior appearances by her mother, but for me, and I think this was the first episode where she actually turns up, and they do kind of play into that a little bit in this episode as well. I know she turns up and she compliments Willow on her hairstyle. You've cut your hair up, you kind of suit it. And Willow's like, yeah, it was just a snap decision I made like months ago, more or less. So she's one of these mothers that's out there working all the time. She's never home with her kid. The father, the same. But Willow's obviously living the life of a teenager that's been well kept as far as parenting goes. But they're never there, and they do kind of get into that a wee bit. The mayor gets up, says a few words before he announces Joyce to come up, the woman that brought everybody together tonight. She was to go up and make a speech, to take a moment of silence and memory of these two kids. But she changes her mind up there, and she gives a speech about how the people of Sunnydale must take back their city from the monsters, witches and slayers. And Buffy and Giles and the rest of the gang, they're sort of shocked that she's dropped the word slayers as well. This could be potentially trouble going forward in their books. Later on, back at the school, all the school lockers, they're searched for witch-related material, and Giles' occult books are seized by the police, and Amy and Willow are taken to Principal Snyder's office for questioning him. Now, just prior to this, there is a sequence where you see a group of witches around this. They're putting this spell together, and they've got all this witchcraft stuff out there, and it's really built up to be something sinister. And the camera pans up at the last second, and you see Willow as part of this group of witches that's concocting this spell. And prior to the lockers being searched, Buffy realizes that there is a piece of paper among Willow's stuff in school that has the symbol on it that was found in the hands of the two dead kids. And she's like, what the heck is going on here? This is the symbol that was on the dead children. Willow's like, what? This is a harmless symbol. I was using it for like a protection spell for you, but now that you know about it, it's broken. But so it gets into some interesting territory in this episode where it tries to give you the old bait and switch at one point. You're kind of, for a swift second, you're kind of thinking, is Willow going to turn bad? But that'll happen in due course. But yes, at Buffy's home, Joyce forbids Buffy to see Willow anymore, and it's the same. Willow's house, her mother forbids Willow to see Buffy, grounds her, and Buffy's mother also takes credit for the locker searches and states that Buffy's slaying does Sunnydale no good. Buffy walks out. She's trying to argue the case that the next time that the world's going to be sucked into hell and the anti-hell sucking books aren't in the library anymore, what the heck are we going to do then, sort of deal. But as she leaves, the ghosts of the two dead children appear to Joyce and tell her that she has to hurt the bad people the way they hurt us. Back at the park where the two kids was found, Buffy's walking along. Angel pops up out of nowhere, as he's known to do, and they have a bit of a heart-to-heart about everything that's going on, and he convinces her not to give up fighting. And it's not about winning. Essentially, we fight because it's what we're supposed to do, and we may never win, but we have to be there to stand up for what's right, more or less. That's why I like the character of Angel so much. He is, you know, he's one of those people that has that dark, dangerous side, of course, but he also has the strength most of the time to do what needs to be done. And yes, which is why as much as I love Buffy the Vampire Slayer, I think I prefer the standalone Angel series over the top of it. And once we get to the end of season 3 in Buffy and he leaves, we're going to start doing that on a Wednesday on this podcast. So if you were into that show, look forward to that there. And if you've never seen it, again, go start watching it now, because we will be hanging out on Wednesdays and have a little chat about it on the show. Anyway, during the course of the conversation, Angel makes a passing remark about the children and their parents, and Buffy is struck by the thought that the children's parents were never seen or mentioned throughout everything that's happened so far, and the fact that no one knows the children's names, which is weird. And actually just watching the episode at that point, and it kind of hits you. It's like everything that's happening, all the material that they have created, you know, the parents get together and start this group against the occult, more or less, and raid the school, raid the lockers, take out all these books and whatnot, and they've got all this material, posters and whatnot made for the kids, with Never Again written on it, with a photograph of the two kids together. And yes, there's never any mention of the two kids' names, and the parents at no point are ever mentioned or seen. And I actually missed that. So the episode does a good job at that whole bait and switch sort of thing. It keeps your interest somewhere and keeps you away from the truth that something that should have happened didn't happen. So it's a great little episode for that as well. In the library, Buffy puts this to Giles and the rest of them. You know, did we ever see the parents? Do we know who the parents are? Do we know where these kids came from? Do we know their names and whatnot? But having no books there anymore to research, Giles is trying to use the internet on a computer, which isn't going well. And yes, Oz turns up. They're like, you know, if Willow was here, she would know what sites to use on the internet, to use a computer to find out whatever we need to find out. And nobody at this point. Now, you have to remember that this was the days of early internet. Like, I know these days, in this sort of situation, you would just jump onto your smartphone and you would get somebody on the other side of the planet on the screen to talk to. You can do it at any point in time. It's just the norm now. But back whenever this show first came out, it was the early days of the internet, and it was more chat rooms than anything else. Video calls weren't really a thing at this point. So Oz, using the internet, connects Willow onto a text chat, essentially, and they've connected the two computers through the network, and Willow's doing the research, throwing everything over to them in the library so that they can see what's happening. And they learn that every 50 years throughout history, the murdered bodies of two nameless children have been found, resulting in peaceful communities been torn apart by vigilante chaos. And you see all these articles on the screen from 50 years back. It's the same photograph, the same two kids. The further back in time they go, they get into drawings, you know, before cameras and photographs, and you see this is obviously the exact same two children. So there's something highly supernatural happening at this point. The earliest record dated back to Germany during 1649, where a clergy from the Black Forest discovered the corpses of Hans and Greta Strauss. And of course, as soon as I said Hans and Greta Strauss, it's just hit you. And it's just, whenever it hit me in the episode, I was kind of thinking, okay, we're hitting the real cheesy mark here. But it has to be said, I've said it countless times before, cheese actually sells. If you want something to be remembered for all time, throw a good dose of cheese on it. Sharknado, perfect example. the worst movie ever made. Nobody's ever going to forget about it. Anyway, yes, this clergyman back in 1649, the Black Forest, discovers the corpses of Hans and Gretel Strauss, which inspired the fairy tale of Hansel and Gretel. Giles explains that certain demons thrive on watching humans destroy each other through persecution and ignorance. And according to Giles, this is what set off the Salem witch trials as well. Similar sort of situation. Demon jumped on there, turned everybody's against each other, essentially, and destroyed a community of people that were accused of witchcraft, and the majority of them were innocent, if not all of them. Giles and Buffy, they're knocked out by chloroform very soon after this by Joyce and her friends. They have actually been twisted by the ghosts of these two kids that much that the parents, at the behest of these two dead kids, are going to take the ones that they think are witches and burn them at the stake, essentially, and they decide to do that. And I can't remember the actual setting. I was going to say the library, but it wasn't the library. It was part of the school anyway. They take Amy, Willow, and Buffy to City Hall. That's where it was at. They take them to City Hall, the centre of power in Sunnydale, and they set them up, and they're going to tie them to these posts and all they're surrounded by all these books, and they set fire to the books. They're going to burn them as witches. And yes, Cordelia finds Giles unconscious, wakes him, and they rush to City Hall. Buffy wakes up, and her mother lights books on fire in front of her, sentencing the three girls to death by burning at the stake. Amy, this character, now, Amy uses whatever witchcraft she knows at this point to escape, and she transforms herself into a rat and escapes, disappears off. Now I'm trying to think, is this the same Amy that comes back maybe next season or 2 seasons down the line? There is eventually Willow gets into a gay relationship with a girl called Amy, and I'm pretty sure it's the same character but a different actor playing her. But we'll get to that in due course. But yes, she disappears off. We don't see her for the rest of the episode. Boom, magic spell, rat, off she goes, leaving the rest of them still tied up. Where are we at in my notes? At City Hall, Cordelia uses a fire hose to put the burning stacks books out. The two children, they're there, and they transform into a large demon, which charges at Buffy. Just as she breaks the stake she's tied to escape, and she uses it to impale the demon and kills him. And yes, just a little bit of comedy to close out this episode. Xander and why am I blanking on his name right now? I was talking about him, Oz, earlier on. Yes, Oz and Xander, there is awkward moments between the two of them throughout this episode because of what happened prior to everything that's happening right now, whenever Xander and Willow had the kiss and whatnot. So they're trying to be friends, but it's awkward. And at the end of the episode, they couldn't get into City Hall, into the main hall where the girls were going to be killed, and they get up into the ducts up in the roof space to try and work their way across and bust in that way. So there's a little bit of comedy at the end of the episode, even with the way Buffy takes out the demon. at the end of the episode where she's like, she bends over by, almost by complete accident, kills this demon, and she's like, did I get him? Did I get him? Sort of thing. And just as she says that, the roof bursts open, crashing down to the floor. There's Xander and Oz. So, yes, everything's back to normal. By the end of the episode, it's one of these situations where the parents are going to just pretty much forget everything that's happened and go back into the denial that they've been living in up to this point. At the end of the episode, Buffy and Willow play with Amy, the rat, and they're looking for a way to restore her to human form. They try a spell, and it fails. And, yes, Buffy's like, maybe we should get her one of those little wheels to run on. So this is going to be an ongoing thing for the character of Amy for a while. She's going to be stuck in the form of a rat, essentially. So, yes, what was I going to say here? Yeah. So the mothers, of course, have forgotten about what happened. They're back in the denial. But Willow's mother remembers Willow said she was dating Oz, and he has to be invited for dinner. So that's where we close off the episode. This one here was absolutely fantastic, and it still blows me away how long ago this show came out. I say that quite a bit in these reviews, because in 1999, this was the original air date was January 12th, 1999. That doesn't seem that long ago for me. I left high school in 1995, so I was getting out into the real world and getting ready to make some huge life choices that probably weren't the best for me, but everything's worked out well in the end. This was directed by James Whitmore Jr. The story is by Jane Eppenson, Thanian St. John, hope I say that name right, and absolutely fantastic. And again, whenever you get to that point where they actually find out that it's all based on the people, Hans and Greta Strauss, that inspired the fairy tale of Hansel and Gretel, you're kind of thinking, oh, cheese. But again, cheese isn't a bad thing. Yes, I did enjoy this episode. I can't wait to get into some more of it. I can't believe watching it back now. Like, I've seen everything right through at this point, but originally when this was out, and at that time in my life I was insanely busy in my own life. At that stage I was just getting, this was pre-marriage, so I was dating, I was working full time, all that sort of stuff. And after the incredible season 2 of Buffy, getting into season 3 was going to be a real difficult one to follow up season 2. Like, they really were up against it with this season. For me, back then when it originally aired, I fell off. I did fall off for a long time. I only kind of dabbled every once in a while. If I came across one of the shows and it was on, I would sit down and watch it, but I wasn't watching it regular after season 2. So to sit down now, play them back for this podcast, I'm actually having a ball with it, loving it. So yes, once again guys, I need to stop punching my hands when I'm doing this, because it's probably annoying your happiness on the other end of the audio. But yes, highly recommend getting into this series and the spin-off Angel. So you're getting a lot of warning time right here. Like, we're probably, this is episode 11. I want to say there was 20 episodes in this season, or 22 episodes in this season perhaps. So you've got quite a while to actually, if you've never seen Angel, the spin-off show, to go and check it out at least, so you know the episodes before you listen to this podcast, because I spoiled the crap out of it. I absolutely love it and adore it. So that's going to do it for this episode. Hopefully this is me back to the regular upload schedule. Everything just went to hell there for about a month and a half to 2 months. So yes, It's all good. We're back, and we're going to do this as often as we can. So guys, until the next episode, stay safe, and I'll talk to you all then. This has been a production of Coins Age Media.